Welcome to Vox Populi News. You can find us at voxpopulinews.net. I am Michael Higgins.
And I am Farrah Prudence.
And Farrah, I would like you to introduce our very, very special guest this morning.
Absolutely, it would be my honor. Today, we have Miss Brigitte Gabriel with us. She is the founder and president of Act for America. Miss Gabriel is one of the leading national security experts in the world, providing information and analysis on the rise of Islamic terrorism. She is also the author of 2 New York Times bestsellers, Because They Hate and They Must Be Stopped. Good morning, Miss Gabriel.
Good morning, Farrah and Michael. I'm delighted to be with you.
We're delighted to have you.
I'm so happy to have you right now. We have so many issues that are going on. We could probably pick your brain for an hour, but we have you for a limited time. So let's start with the big thing everybody's talking about, the Iran deal. How do you feel about it? What do you think is going to be the repercussions of it, not just on the United States, but on Israel and the Middle East?
Well, the Iran deal is a one-sided deal. Basically, it's an illusion on our part to think that we have a peace treaty with an enemy dedicated to our destruction. It is just a proof to the Arab street or the Islamic street worldwide that America has become so gullible, so misguided in its foreign policy that it can actually sign a peace treaty with its enemy, even though that same enemy continually goes on television, even the day the treaty is signed and after, saying death to America, death to Israel, including the leaders, the spiritual leaders of Iran. As we all know, Iran is basically a mullahocracy run by a bunch of mullahs. And even the spiritual leaders came out and said that they do not recognize the treaty that was just signed with the United States. It is very dangerous time for the world, not only for the United States and not only for Israel, because Iran is driven by a messianic vision to bring a new era into the world, an era where the Islamic Messiah can reign and justice will be on earth. The Iranians are driven by the vision of a Messiah, like Jews and Christians have believed that a Messiah is going to come. The Jews believe the Messiah is going to come. The Christians believe Jesus is going to come back, and then we're going to have peace. But there is nothing we can do to basically hasten the return of our Messiah or Jesus. And the Shiite religion, according to the Iranians' beliefs, they believe that if they can create a catastrophe throughout the earth, the Mahdi or the Islamic Messiah of the Shiites will come back only after that catastrophe is created and blood will run like rivers on the streets. That's what will usher his return. And that is what is driving the vision behind the Iranian nuclear development. That's something the West is not understanding, but that's something that Iran is moving fully forward in implementing and finishing a nuclear bomb.
Now, Brigitte, does this by any chance follow into the whole idea of I believe it's the 12th Imam will surface once all this happens?
Correct. His name is Imam Mahdi, and supposedly he disappeared in a well when he was 5 years old. And the Mahdi is waiting to return, but the Shiites believe that they can actually hasten his return by participating in creating a catastrophe throughout the world. That's what will usher his return, and that's when justice will reign on earth, where Islam and Shiites will take their rightful place on the planet, on earth, where Islam would rule supreme, and the Mahdi will be the saving Messiah. And that's why the Iranians are willing to say anything, do anything, say whatever lie, sign whatever paper, whatever they have to do to advance the cause of bringing the Islamic Mahdi. Now, we in America think this is crazy. I mean, this is some crazy stuff. What a bunch of wackos. I mean, when Ahmadinejad was speaking at the United Nations back in September, I remember 2006 and 2007, he actually spoke about the Mahdi being in the room was he was delivering his speech to the Security Council. Now, he said, I can feel his presence. He is guiding my words. And the media didn't even comment on it. I mean, you would think as if he was talking about the weather. You know, in contrast, if somebody like, you know, some evangelical leaders in America was talking about, you know, I don't know, you take Pat Robertson talking about the Holy Spirit, you know, being with me in the room, the media would have mocked him. It would have been the story. Yet Ahmadinejad says that, talking about the Mahdi, delivering speech at the United Nations, and the world and the media doesn't even blink.
Wow.
So we can basically take from this that what the president says about the chance against America and Israel being just a small group that doesn't really mean anything, this is actually a widespread mentality in Iran. It's a belief system. It's a religion.
Exactly, Sarah. It doesn't matter what our misguided, gullible president says or thinks. The reality is the reality. And the reality in the eyes of our enemies is America is the great Satan, Israel is the little Satan.
Right.
We are the bullseye because they know that once they weaken America, they can destroy Israel and there will be no one to come to Israel's defense because America usually is Israel's big brother.
Right.
But the situation is right now is that in Iran, they believe this stuff so much that I remember I was given a speech on the EMP electromagnetic pulse coalition actually put on by our government, and I was speaking at their national conference up in Niagara Falls in 2010. Now remember, this is the heads of our government, heads of members of Congress, electrical companies trying to talk about how we can secure ourselves from an EMP attack because we believe at that time, and we still do, that Iran was developing missile technology, working with the North Koreans. Iran was developing nuclear heads, working with the North Koreans who are developing missile technology so they can detonate a bomb and create an EMP in the United States. And I remember using in my speech television program that was airing on Iranian television, and the title of the program was about to prepare for the Mahdi's return. In Iran, they actually had a hotline, 1-800 hotline, that the population could call to see how far the Mahdi is.
Oh,
I mean, it sounds like science fiction to us, and we laugh about it, but this is what was happening in Iran, and that was as of 4 years ago when I gave my speech. It was the businesses in Iran were preparing for the return of the Mahdi. I mean, you should see how Iranian television was showing all this stuff. They had a series about the Mahdi's return. So while we think it's nuts, it's crazy, it's science fiction, for them it is such a reality that they are doing everything they can to bring their Messiah back.
Wow. Now I wanted to switch gears here, Brigitte, if you don't mind, with talking about Syria. And specifically, this is not really talked about. And I was wondering if you can shed some light on it. The Carter Foundation has been heavily involved in Syria since 2013, waging peace, quote unquote. And they have amassed huge amounts of analysis through a third party called Palantir. I hope I'm saying that correctly. What is Jimmy Carter and the Carter Foundation's endgame in Syria? Why are they involved? Are they working with the Obama administration? What is this all about?
Actually, I've never heard of that, so I cannot really comment exactly on that program. But from what I know about Jimmy Carter and what we all know about Jimmy Carter,
yes,
is Jimmy Carter is misguided in his beliefs when it comes to dealing with the Middle East and understanding the Islamic threat, whether to the United States or to Israel. Jimmy Carter lives in a bubble. He thinks that we can reach out through humanitarian efforts and through love to change the hearts and minds of the people in the Islamic world and in the Arabic world so that they will accept us, that they would love us. And this is our way of repenting for our sins as an imperialistic country that basically is so wealthy and so powerful, and we need to do more to help the underdog, which is in this case the Islamic populations in the Middle East that has been so abused by our policies as well as the State of Israel. So this is where Jimmy Carter is coming from. And for him trying to reach out like they have done in other parts of the world. Now, mostly Jimmy Carter reaches out through humanitarian efforts and through dialogue with people on the ground trying to talk peace. Unfortunately, he misunderstands the situation in Syria so badly that he doesn't even have a point of reference as to what is really driving the conflict in Syria. Because when you look at the Syrian conflict, for example, you know, this is nothing new. Let's not forget that Hafiz al-Assad, the father of Bashar Assad, basically bulldozed 20,000 Muslim Brotherhood operatives in Hama back in the 70s because they were trying to rise. That was the Muslim Brotherhood trying to rise and establish their own enclave of Islamic radicalism because they did not believe that Hafiz al-Assad at the time was religious enough or Islamic enough. And he was crushing them. The same thing that the Shah was doing in Iran. The same thing that Sadat was doing in Egypt, basically crushing the radical Islamic opposition rising. Now, Hafiz al-Assad did that and succeeded. So here we go, 30 years later, a new generation, their children are now rising. And the Muslim Brotherhood in Syria looked at what happened in Egypt after the revolution, and they decided, well, if the Muslim Brotherhood can come to power in Egypt and America already threw Mubarak under the bus, and America under the leadership of Obama is ready to throw Assad under the bus, this will be our opportunity to rise and establish our Islamic enclave under the banner of the Arab Spring or the democratic revolution in the Middle East, because America did not understand what was happening in the Middle East. And so that's why they started rising. So what we're looking at in Syria right now is basically the bent-up emotions and dreams of an Islamic state that were going on for years, for decades, that have just been realized by ISIS, by the establishment of the Islamic State. And so no matter what Carter tries to do and how he tries to reaches out and repents on the work and the bad deeds of the United States and Israel and making the Arabs and the Muslims feel like they are the underdog, it basically does more to sabotage the United States than to help the United States. But you've got Carter and Obama on the same page. So I guess right now, whatever Carter's doing fits perfectly with the policy of this administration.
Absolutely. Now, Ms. Gabriel, the Middle East is a mess. You have the Shiites are at war with the Sunnis. They're both at war with us. And of course, Israel is in the middle of all this. But to bring it back home right here, there has been a lot of concern about Islam in our education system as well as in our court systems. And I know that Act for America does fight for our rights as Americans on both of those fronts, in the education as well as in the court system, to stop the implementation of Sharia law. With the Islam in education, are you aware of anything that is coming out new, what they're trying to do with Common Core? We have a lot of parents that are posting stuff about, my child is learning about the pillars of Islam. They're being forced to pray in a mosque. What's going on with that?
Well, thank you for bringing up Act for America, because that's exactly why I founded Act for America. Act for America today is the largest national security grassroots organization in the United States, with 300,000 members and over 900 chapters nationwide dedicated to national security, anything that impacts national security. And we believe that the brainwashing of our students in schools is a part of that threat to national security, because, as Hitler says, give me the children and I will change society in 10 years. And that's exactly what Hitler did. And we are witnessing the same thing happening in the United States today, and it did not start yesterday. We at Act for America, and after the publication of my second book titled They Must Be Stopped, when I started looking as to what's happening in our school system, because I dedicated a chapter in my book about what's happening in the school system, and that was in 2008. We realized there's a major problem in the school system. So in 2010, Act for America launched a project about Islam in public schools. It was titled Education or Indoctrination, the Treatment of Islam in 6th through 12th grade American textbooks of public schools. And what we found out was shocking. We took 2 years to analyze 38 textbooks taught in public schools nationwide, put out by America's top publishers, Houghton Mifflin, McGraw-Hill, Apprentice Hall, etc., history and social studies books. And what we found out was shocking, the brainwashing about Islam, the mistruth, the lies, the misrepresentations of facts, and that's what we focused on. We did not focus on the economy. We did not focus on anything else. We focused on the treatment of Islam. And to give you just a simple example, September 11th, which is the biggest tragedy that happened on American soil, that we can remember, is taught in public schools right now as a terrorist attack against the United States perpetrated by a group of men driven by a cause. Now, it doesn't say what were these group of men? Were they Muslims? Were they Buddhists? What religion they were? It doesn't say anything about what their cause is. So for all the young students who were too young to remember September 11th, for all they care about, September 11th was perpetrated by a group of Hasidic Jews from New York, from Brooklyn, and their cause is Israel, or a group of Baptists from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the abortion issue was their cause. This is how badly things are taught in public schools right now. So we issued a report in 2012, and we mailed the report to 70,000 elected school board members nationwide and said, what are you going to do about it? We mailed the same report to our chapter leaders across the country. And we did training with our chapter leaders to say to them, you need to go to your local elected school board officials and say to them, okay, Mr. Smith, we elected you. You are in our neighborhood. You are in our community. We know that you care about the children. Are you aware of this type of education? And if you are not, we know that Act for America sent you a report, but here it is again. We're giving it to you in person because we have it as well as chapter leaders. And we want to sit down together with you and the school board members and know what you're going to do about it. Because if you're not going to do anything about it, we're going to kick your butt out and we're going to re-elect somebody else in your place next election season.
Absolutely.
And I'm proud to tell you that we were able actually to pull many books out of many school districts. And just this year, we were able in Texas to provide consultants to testify in front of the state, the elected school board, state board of education, which basically selects the textbooks for the state of Texas for the year 2015-2016.
Wow.
And we were able to convince them to change the books to the point where the publishers who published the history books and social studies books would not publish the new books for the current year unless they got the signature of the approval of Act for America approving the books.
Wow.
So it was incredible. This was the first time ever that the publishers would cave to basically republish the books for the current year, 2015-2016, under the pressure of the largest organized grassroots organization in the United States. So we are changing that, and I encourage people to go to our website, actforamerica.org. You can read the full report, 220 pages posted on our website, as well as the executive summary, which is about 30 pages, including the footnotes that you can print and take a look at and see what books are taught in your community.
And just if I'm a listener right now and I'm going, hey, I want to get involved. What is this act? How do I get involved with a local chapter? Could you explain exactly to anybody that wants to get involved how to do that and exactly how they can get involved?
Well, we ask people to go to our website, actforamerica.org, and sign up to get our emails and action alerts. Sign up to either join a chapter or start a chapter in your community if there's no chapter active, because we have a lot of communities where chapter leaders signed up to lead a chapter, but they're not really active. So contact us. So if you don't have an active chapter in your community, we can get you started with a chapter. We can assign a mentor to you immediately, or we can connect you with an existing chapter who is just looking for members to be up and going and be revived. So that's how we get people engaged. We also need you to be on our email list because we want to be able to reach you when there are bills coming down for a vote, so you can be a voice affecting your community by contacting your elected officials, whether locally, whether we are pushing a local bill or a federal bill. So you can call your elected official before the bill is voted on, where your voice actually counts, not later when you're complaining about, oh my God, I can't believe how dare you pass this bill, I'm upset with you. Now, to give you an idea, we have now 2 bills coming down in Congress introduced that Act for America worked on regarding refugee resettlement. One introduced by Congressman Babin from Texas, and one introduced by Congressman McCall, who is the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. And both bills would stop Obama from bringing Syrian refugees into the United States until they are vetted, until we know who they are, where these people are coming from, any links that they have, until we know if the communities can actually support taking these refugees. So we need your help on this issue. Actually, our chapter leaders are get invited for private phone calls. We have a call coming up with Congressman Babin next week. And also for those who signed up to become a part of our refugee working group, refugee resettlement working groups who are working on the bills and pressuring elected officials to stop bringing refugees into their community. So,
it looks like our time is up with Brigitte, or we got disconnected. But I'm going to go through real quick the websites that you can get involved with her organization. It's actforamerica.org. And also go to Amazon or whatever place you go to order books, and you order Because They Hate and They Must Be Stopped, both New York Times bestsellers by Brigitte Gabriel. And Farrah, I'm going to have you go into a little bit more detail on what Act for America does.
Thanks, Michael. You know, this is near and dear to my heart because I am a chapter leader for her. And she is so personable. She will go out of her way to do anything for one of her chapter leaders. They educate. They educate the public. They educate their chapter leaders. They do so much with the education system. They try and make sure that everything is concise. If you want to teach about Islam, teach the truth. They are dealing with securing the border right now. They have a refugee resettlement working group that you can join. Anti-terrorism, preserving the Constitution, energy independence. They also work with empowering women because honor killings and forced marriages are alive and well in the United States. They also work with protecting children. Even some things like female genital mutilation that takes place in the United States. You know, Michael, a lot of people just think that happens in Africa and Yemen.
I actually just thought that actually is happening right here in America.
It is. It's happening right here in America. And the media just doesn't want to talk about it. But one of the most important things that Act for America has done that's just amazing, ALAC, A-L-A-C, American Law for American Courts. Muslims have been trying to implement Sharia law in their own communities and trying to force American courts to implement Sharia law. ALAC has been passed in many, many states, and it enforces American law and the use of American Constitution for American courts.
Is that something that Act for America specifically wrote?
Yes, that is something that they headed. I believe it got passed in Alabama and Arizona, a few different states that it got passed in, and it's always a victory of one more state. And you'd think that, you know, you wouldn't have to pass something like that since we are in America.
Wow.
But it's there.
Folks, this war that we're in, it's ideological, but it's not going to be won by sitting in your house and shaking your head every time you hear about one of our rights being taken away. It's not going to be won by you canning vegetables. It's not going to be won by you prepping. It's going to be won if we're active. If you're prepping, you've already lost. You know, you want to prep, go start up, be a chapter head, go to a meeting, get involved. Do you even know who your local representative is? Do you even know anybody in your local government? So these are some of the things that we have to be wary of and we have to act on. And Farrah, I'll leave any last words for you.
Just to touch up on what you just said, Act for America, if you go to their website, actforamerica.org, they actually have a Contact Congress button. Put in your zip code and they will tell you the phone number, the emails, whatever it is to contact Congress. So it's very easy. Just put in the zip code and they'll give you the information. You don't even have to do any research. Act for America does it all for you. One last thing, very important people don't talk about, UN Resolution 1618 that Act for America has been trying to fight. And that resolution would make it globally to where any criticism of Islam is considered discrimination. All of this information is on their website, folks. You know, pick up the phone, talk to other people, send the links. They make it very easy for you to do it.
Awesome. Well, that was a great interview. And again, thank you, Brigitte. That was amazing. And we thank you so much for coming aboard and talking to us. And again, folks, you can find this at voxpopulinews.net.